Good morning, everybody. Beth Combs here with Canyon Community Yoga. Welcome to our Tuesday morning yoga class. I'm not sure if I'm going to do class next week just to have a little break for the holidays. So um, I would say probably not at this time. We will actually be not home. So I think this will be our last session for 2020. Um, and we'll see you again in the new year. So yesterday was the winter solstice, so today is the first day of winter. And we also have the Saturn Jupiter Great Conjunction that is taking place right now. I think last night was the best time to see it as they were the closest that they um, had been in the last 20 years, and lots of other things that hadn't happened since 1246 or whatever. So, um, definitely some powerful astronomy that's taking place right now, and astrology. So, um, my focus has been for myself, just as the end of the year comes along, taking some time to reflect on the year. And of course, 2020 has been quite a doozy, but I have felt a lot of gratitude myself. My business continues to grow. I continue to make connections with people, helping to support their wellness. And so I'm really encouraged by those um, things that are happening and progressing nicely. And so I'm feeling a lot of gratitude myself. And I'm also excited. The Saturn Jupiter conjunction is kind of a time to think about what you might want for the next 20 years of your life. And so the last time I think that they lined up was May of 2000, and I was actually getting ready to graduate from high school at that point. So yeah, there's a lot of things that have have definitely changed and progressed for me since that time, that beyond my wildest imagination. And lots of good things and challenging things too. A lot of growth has happened, of course, as most of us recognize as we get older. All the things that we've learned and all the things we still don't know. So I just invite you to maybe take some time, take a piece of paper, take a journal, and over the next few days, while it's still quite dark out, taking the time to reflect and also to manifest, to begin the process of manifesting your deepest desires and your dreams. And so I wanted to have um, kind of a gentle flow practice today, this morning, to help us to connect with the solstice, connecting with the darkness and turning toward the light. As you know, the winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. So that means starting today, the days are going to get slightly longer. And of course, you're probably not going to notice it very much, just a few minutes at a time or even a minute at a time. But um, it's a time to celebrate the light coming back into our lives. And so, um, we're just going to kind of focus our practice on that and on reflection. So you'll see I am seated up on my bolster, give my hips a little bit of a break. So if you need a sofa cushion or anything like that, feel free to grab that to sit on and make yourself a little bit more comfortable. I'm going to try to get my watch started here so I don't lose track of time. So I always like to tell people that as long as you can breathe, you can do yoga. So we're going to start with the breath. We're in our seated cross-legged pose. Our sits bones are rooting down into whatever it is we're sitting on. We're lengthening up the spine, out the crown of the head. And we'll start off just with, we're going to take 3 rounds of breath where we actually inhale through the nose and then exhale out the mouth. So we'll begin with an inhale. And exhale. Releasing any tension from the day behind us. Take an inhale and exhale. Feel free to make as much noise as you need to on the exhale. And one more round here. Inhale and exhale. So, as I've said before, if you're feeling particularly anxious, feel free to continue exhaling out the mouth. That actually helps engage the parasympathetic system, which is our rest and digest system. Otherwise, you can close the mouth and begin inhaling and exhaling through the nose. I invite you to close your eyes here so you can really focus on the breath, kind of decrease the distraction of anything that's around you right now. Then we'll begin to add some movements. You can blink your eyes open if you'd like. We're going to take the right hand down next to our right hip. We're going to lift the left arm up alongside the left ear. And we're going to fold over to the right any amount. Maybe move your hand down to the mat so you're not crunching into your right wrist. You can gaze up under your left arm if your neck will allow it. Stretching into our side body, releasing any stuck energy that might be hidden anywhere between the hip, all the way through the fingertips. Then we'll inhale, we'll come back to center, and we'll switch sides. So the left hand goes by the left hip. We'll sweep that right arm up alongside the right ear, and then we'll fold over to the left. Left hand goes down onto the mat so you're not crunching into that wrist. You can gaze up under the right arm if your neck will allow it. Again, just noticing any tight spots in that right side body, maybe sending some breath over there. Releasing anything that feels stuck and stagnant. Shining some light into those areas. We'll inhale, we'll come back up to center. We're going to fold over our bent legs and rock from side to side, kind of lengthening out our low back. We'll inhale, we'll come back up to center. And then we'll change the cross of the legs. We're going to take the left hand over to the right knee. We'll inhale, sit up nice and tall, and then use the abdominals to rotate over to the right. With each inhale, get a little taller. With each exhale, rotate a little bit more. Maybe gaze over that right shoulder. So I really like twisting poses. They help with our digestion, which I know I need right now. Lots of baked goods that people have given me. I'm eating way more sugar than I normally do. So I'm not saying the twist will magically erase all the calories, but I think it does help wring out our systems a little bit more, help our digestion move along. Feel free to gaze over that right shoulder if your neck will allow it. Then we'll inhale, we'll come back to center, we'll switch sides. So right hand goes on the left knee. Inhale, sit up nice and tall. Exhale, rotate to the left. As you inhale, get a little taller. As you exhale, rotate a little bit more from the abdominals. Maybe gaze over that left shoulder. Then we'll inhale, we'll come back to center, we'll fold over our bent legs again. And we'll bring ourselves back up to our seated position. And then we're going to come into our hands and knees to sit up for our cat-cow. So our wrists are under our shoulders, knees are underneath our hips. We're going to inhale, lift the forehead and the tailbone up. Exhale, pull the belly button back towards the spine. Inhale to come up. So just adding some gentle movement. Exhale to pull back, especially in the hip area, getting those stuck emotions moving again. Inhale to come up. Exhale to pull back. Then take two more following your own breath and your own pace. And then we'll come back to center and we'll do some hip circles. So we're going to drop the seat towards the heels, come forward on the mat, kind of drawing an oval shape with our hips on the mat. Then we'll switch directions. And then we'll come back to center and then we'll take the hula hoop next. So dropping our hips toward the mat and the ceiling. I'm always interested to see the sensations, switch directions, and the differences between these two types of hip circles. Where I notice tightness, where I notice more fluidity. I'm noticing a lot of tightness in my right hip, and the right side is usually related to the masculine, so be journaling about that later today. And then we're going to take a low lunge here next. So we're going to bring the left foot in between the hands at the top of the mat or a little ahead of the hands. You want to make sure the ankle is tracking underneath the left knee. If you have blocks, you might want to grab them to put on either side of your foot here, just in case your arms don't actually reach all the way down to the mat. So we're pressing our top of the right foot into the mat to help us stabilize, as well as pulling the belly button in towards the spine. Breathing into that right hip flexor. Then we're going to shift the hips up and back into our hamstring stretch. So you can bring the blocks along if you've got them. You can also use some bigger books or boxes. You can also bend your knee here if your hamstring, which is the back of your thigh, is really tight. And you could just slowly straighten the leg, see how that feels. See if you can release any tension in your hamstring or even your low back as you fold over your left leg. Just try to make sure you keep the hips square with the top of your mat. Sometimes I like to kind of pop my hip over to one side and then I'm kind of getting out of the pose because it's uncomfortable on my hamstring. So, really trying to stay in it and then bending that left knee if it's really tight for you because you want to keep your hips in proper alignment so you can get the most out of the pose. Then we'll go ahead and plant that left foot back down. We'll move the blocks out of the way so we can switch sides. So we'll bring that left foot back. We'll pull the right foot forward. So again, making sure the ankle is tracking below the right knee. You can bring the blocks back if you need them. So really pressing into that right foot, pressing into the top of the left foot that's on the mat, sending the breath to the left hip flexor and the left hip. Really leaning, trying to make the weight even on the right hip, but pressing into the mound under just under the big toe on the right side. Then we'll shift the hips up and back for our hamstring stretch. So again, making sure we're not knocking our hips over to the left to avoid stretching the hamstring. So again, bend the knee as much as you need to, maybe even rest your torso on your thigh. The blocks really help you stabilize and not lean too heavily on your leg. And then see if you can just slightly begin to straighten that leg. And if not, that's okay. Just keep it bent. So again, checking in with your body, checking in with the body wisdom. If you feel resistance, acknowledge it, let it be there, and then maybe ask it why it's there or ask to understand what's coming up from that resistance. A lot of exercises, we tend to force ourselves to do things, and our body might not actually be in alignment with that. And so just tuning in and asking the question, making the inquiry is the first step to learning from our bodies. Then we'll go ahead and plant that right foot back down. We'll move the blocks off to the side. We'll bring that leg back behind us, and then we're going to take a child's pose. So we're going to keep the big toes touching, widen the knees, lower the torso down. If you've got your block, you can use that to place under your forehead. We're going to lower the torso down and extend the arms out in front of us with the elbows lifted. Then we're going to inhale, we're going to come back up, and we're going to come into what's called gate pose next. So if you have blocks, you might want to put them kind of apart from each other on the back side of your mat. We're going to come up on our knees. And if your knees are kind of tender, you can put a cushion or a blanket underneath them. We're going to bring our left leg out first. So left leg is out by our side. The toes are pointed up towards the ceiling. We're going to place our block kind of between our ankle, kind of next to our calf. We're going to bring the arms up to a T, and then we're going to fold over toward the block or toward the leg. Just make sure you put a micro bend in the knee so you're not hyperextending your knee. And then we're going to bring the right arm up alongside the right ear. Really getting into that right hip. Maybe gaze up under the right arm. Then we'll inhale, we'll come back to center, and then we'll switch sides. So the right leg comes out next to us with the right toes pointing towards the ceiling. We're going to bring the arms up to a T. We'll inhale, and then exhale, fold over to the right any amount. Can gaze up under that left arm. Then we'll inhale, we'll come back to center, and we'll come back to our hands and knees. And we're going to come to our first downward facing dog. So we're in our hands and knees. We're going to walk the hands one palm's distance in front of us. We're going to flip the toes and we're going to pull the hips up and back towards the ceiling. We're going to pedal our feet out here. Then we're going to step the feet up in between the hands at the top of the mat. We're going to bend the knees, rest our torso, allow the head to dangle towards the floor. Maybe shake your head no and nod your head yes. And then we're going to begin to stand as we sweep our arms up and around and exhale the hands to heart center. So I invite you in our mountain pose. We're going to take a few breaths here. Just check in, make sure your weight is even between all four corners of your feet. You might notice yourself rocking forward and back or from side to side. Go ahead and do that. And then try to find your balance. Our quads are lifting up away from our kneecaps. Our hip bones and our front ribs are pulling in toward one another. Another way to get that sensation is to pull the tailbone down towards the floor. Shoulder blades are gliding down the back. Hands are lightly pressing in toward one another at the heart center. Head is lengthening up towards the sky, like a string pulling the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. So we'll take one sun salutation here, nice and slow. We'll inhale, sweep the arms up, palms touch at the top. We exhale and we fold forward, sweeping the arms down towards the floor. We're going to place our hands on the sides of our shins. We're going to lift the torso halfway up on an inhale. And then we're going to exhale. We're going to plant the hands and step the feet back, lower to our tabletop, and then lower the torso all the way down to the mat. We're going to press all 10 toes, tops of all 10 toes into the mat, pull the tailbone towards the heels, and we're going to inhale and lift our chest up into cobra. So you really want your cobra to be the strength of your back and not actually a lot of weight in your hands. So you should be able to pick your hands up and still hold the pose. Then we're going to exhale. We're going to push back up to tabletop and then pull back to downward facing dog. So again, feel free to walk the dog here. You want your weight even between your hands and your feet. So if you need to move your feet forward to do that, feel free to do so. You want most of the weight in your hands to be between your index finger and your thumb. Then we'll inhale, step the feet to the top of the mat, and lift the torso halfway up. Exhale to fold forward, bend the knees here. As we inhale, sweep the arms up and around, and exhale the hands to heart center. Then we'll stand in the middle of our mat for our tree pose. So trees are probably another, not to anthropomorphize, but trees will start to respond to increased daylight as well. So we've got probably a couple months before we're going to see any buds on the trees, unless you live further south where you don't have harsh winters with snow and cold air. So we are going to start on our right side. So the right foot is rooting down to the center of the earth, connecting to the center of the earth. We're going to firm our outer hip in towards our midline of our body on the right side. So kind of engaging that glute muscle. And we'll start with our little kickstand here. And you can always do tree pose up against the wall. So you could actually stand up against a wall in case you're feeling wobbly. So that is always an option. It's important to challenge yourself a little bit. That's how we find our edge, as we call it. But you also don't want to fall over and hurt yourself. So do what you need to do to protect yourself while still engaging all the muscles that you need to do the pose properly. So we're going to start with our kickstand. So our left ankle is just above the right, left heel is just above the right ankle. Pull the belly button in towards the spine to help stabilize you. Maybe bring the foot up to the shin. You can also try bringing it all the way up, but just avoid the knee area. So you don't want your foot on your knee. Your knee is not meant to go sideways, so we don't want that alignment. And then see if you can sweep the arms up alongside the ears. Maybe find a spot on the floor to gaze at about 10 feet in front of you. And it's okay if you feel wobbly and you have to drop your foot in tree pose. Trees get blown around in the wind a lot, but they stand strong nonetheless. So it's a matter of, can you just get back into your pose and continue? Continue moving forward. And we'll exhale, we'll lower everything down. Go ahead and give the legs a little shake. I think most people see tree pose and they think, oh, that's not hard. But if you're really engaging the muscles, it can be quite challenging actually. Definitely muscles I don't think I use nearly as often as I should. So we're going to root into our left heel this time. We're going to firm that left outer hip and glute in toward the midline of the body. We're going to bring our right heel just above the left ankle this time. And again, you can stay right here if you'd like, or you can bring the foot up a little bit higher on your leg. This time, I'd like you to try cactus arms, stretching across the collarbone. But you can always just do airplane arms or try bringing the hands up alongside the ears once again. So finding that spot to gaze at about 10 feet in front of you will really help you Get your focus. And then we'll lower everything down. We'll shake the legs out. And then we're going to come back down onto our mats for a couple more seated poses and then our Shavasana. So for seated poses, my tailbone sticks out and it kind of makes my butt stick up in the air a little bit when I walk. So to help my tailbone get in proper alignment, I like to sit up on a smaller cushion or a blanket. We're going to do a forward fold here. So we're going to bring the legs out in front of us. And we'll start with, we'll just do a double-legged forward fold. So if you need to, if your hamstrings are really tight or you tend to hyperextend your knees, you want to put a folded blanket under here or a pillow, like a little lumbar pillow would work great. We're going to sit up nice and tall, really root the sits bones down. We'll inhale the arms up, exhale, fold forward. So you can hold on to your shins if that's as far as you can go. You can reach your ankles. Maybe you can reach your hands around your sides of your feet. Feel free to bend the knees here if your hamstrings are really tight. The goal is to stretch out the low back and also the backs of the legs. So finding that balance, finding that stretch in those areas. As always, if you have any pain, you need to back out of it completely. We are not looking for pain here. We are looking for nourishment. We are looking for ways to just tune into our bodies and the wisdom our bodies hold. And then we'll inhale, we'll bring the arms back up, and we'll lower the hands down by the side on an exhale. Then we'll set up for our butterfly pose. So soles of the feet are touching one another. We've got cushions under our knees. So we'll inhale, we'll sit up nice and tall here. And then we'll exhale and fold over those feet any amount. So you could give yourself a little foot massage if you'd like, or you can just bring the hands out in front of you. Just really allowing your head to lengthen in front of you towards the front of your mat. We'll inhale, we'll come back up to center, and then we'll go ahead and lay down for our Shavasana. So if you've got tightness in your low back, you might want to use a bolster or a blanket to place under your knees. I'm going to use my pillow or my cushion under my head just to help my neck relax a little bit more. You can bring the hands out to the side, or you could do cactus arms again like we did earlier during tree pose. I feel like there's a little bit more of a stretch across the collarbone here when you're laying on the floor. So just check in, try a couple different things, see what is going to allow your body to really sink into the mat for a few moments of peace. We like to say Shavasana or the corpse pose is the most important pose of the practice because it helps all the work you've done integrate through every cell of your body. I invite you to stay in this pose as long as you need to. When you're ready, go ahead and roll over to your right side and bring yourself up to a comfortable seated position. You can bring your hands together at heart center and close your eyes. The compassion, the love, and the light in me honors the compassion, the love, and the light in you. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste. So now is actually a great time to grab a journal and maybe write down what you would like to see your life looking like over the next 20 years. It's a great practice to move our bodies, and then to actually write is a really profound practice that can help you really access some of your deepest desires that you may not even have realized were there. So I definitely recommend that. And I wish everyone a happy solstice and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So happy holidays to all of you, and we'll see you next year. Bye.